There is a very popular prophecy in the Bible, it's truly incredible. It totally proves that the Bible is inspired by God. But there is something that you're not told about it, something that I think is kind of the main point of this prophecy, something that needs to happen, and without that, no matter how well you know the prophecy, it's meaningless. But before I tell you what that is, in case you don't know it, let me very quickly tell you what this prophecy is about. We have made a separate video about it too, where we get into it more and see all the incredible details. It's really epic, so make sure to watch that video too. But in summary, the king of the ancient kingdom of Babylon, he has this dream. A dream about a statue made up of different metals, like gold and silver. He's told that this represents the order of kingdoms over time, starting with his own. And the prophecy ends with a rock crashing into the statue, smashing it to pieces, and the whole rock, it grows and it covers the whole earth. And this rock, which is said to have been cut out without hands, which indicates some supernatural origin, it represents Jesus and his kingdom. He puts an end to the corrupt and power-hungry and worldly kingdoms, and instead sets up the kingdom of heaven. A kingdom of integrity and justice and peace. And as we look at history and compare it with this prophecy, we can see how accurate it is, and that we can be absolutely sure that we are living in the final moments before this rock hits the statue. 2,500 years after the king of Babylon got this dream, we are now living in the feet section, the divided countries of Europe, the bottom of the statue right before the second coming of Jesus. And this is where normally the explanation of this prophecy stops. The next thing happening, it's Jesus coming, we're living in the end times of the world. Super exciting, of course, but completely meaningless for you without something else happening first. All the facts of this prophecy showing how it's been fulfilled in the smallest detail, it's irrelevant. So what is it that needs to happen before this rock smashes into the statue? Let me first just throw out a quick challenge to you. Whoever explains in their own words, in the best way, the main point of this video in the comments below, I will pin that comment to the top. It will be interesting to hear your thoughts and way of thinking about this. So, before the rock comes and causes the fall of the statue already needs to have fallen in your heart. What do I mean with that? Before I can explain that, it might be first good to know to look at what does this statue represent. Because I believe it represents more than just a historic sequence of kingdoms. Yes, it's totally amazing how all these details prove that the Bible is inspired by God, as it predicted 2,500 years of history. But I don't think that's the main point. A kingdom is more than a name. It's more than a powerful person on the throne. Kingdoms create cultures and traditions. Kingdoms set beliefs and ideologies. Kingdoms shape a way of thinking, behaving, different way of living. And while the rulers may change, different countries and governments, they're all still part of the same statue. Something that is worshipped while made by human hands. Contrast that with the rock, of which it expressly says it was cut out without human hands. So when we're talking about the statue and the rock, it's not just different kingdoms, it's different cultures, different mindsets and beliefs, principles, way of life. This is the ways of the world versus the ways of God. And before we can understand why this statue needs to fall in our hearts before the rock smashes it to pieces, we need to understand, why does this statue need to fall at all? Especially if you're watching and you're not a Christian and you don't know anything else than the ways of the world. This might be a bit confusing. Long story made very short. The world was originally created in harmony with the principles of God's kingdom. It was an extension of who God himself was. Humanity was made to thrive and find happiness in that way of living. However, pride overtook the human race, and we thought we would know better than our Creator. We began rebelling against these universal principles, and the further away from God we began to live, the more our principles changed. Today, the ways of the world is to put yourself first. Do what you want to do. The way of God is to put others first and to see how can you serve. The way of the world is to seek after power and money and control. The way of God is about humility, generosity, surrender. The ways of the world have become so corrupted and destructive to humanity that someone needs to put an end to it. That's why this statue needs to fall, to restore the whole creation back to how it was, to restore the imbalances in nature, to restore the quality of life, to restore the human body. So more than showing us the order of kingdoms throughout history, this prophecy tells us that the ways of this world are temporary. They will not last. They will fall. But that's not all there is to it. They won't just be destroyed and now what? They will be replaced. So there's hope. This prophecy is really an invitation for you to leave the temporary kingdoms of this world and become a part of the renewed, eternal kingdom of God. The kingdom that will never fall. The kingdom that will provide restoration for the human race. But here's the thing. The kingdom of God is not a promise for the future. It's a promise for today. Because the kingdom of God is already in you. You know, in the church we may sometimes talk about the second coming, the statue smashing parts as the solution for everything. Then everything will be fine and made right, and we're looking forward to that moment when everything will change. It's not true. See, the second coming of Jesus doesn't change everything. It changes the environment, but it's not going to change the heart. Yes, the kingdom of God will be established after Jesus' return. But the solution for changing the heart happens already here and now, today. That's why before the statue falls, it needs to have fallen in your heart. Before God establishes his kingdom on earth, it needs to have been established in your heart. It's a decision that you need to make now. Imagine this, if in your heart you still hold on to the ways of the world, the way of life, you still seek after the things of this world, career and pleasures and reputation and acceptance and materialistic stuff, and you're living just with a worldly mindset. And even if you're a Christian, if you study the Bible, you go to church, even if you know this prophecy and you say you look forward to Jesus coming, if in your heart you have not given up the ways of the world, and all of a sudden, Jesus comes and the rock, it smashes the statue to pieces. He sets up his kingdom. And it's completely different than before. And now you find yourself living in a place, in an environment and culture that totally doesn't match with what's in your heart. How would you feel? You'd feel completely out of place. That's why before the statue falls, it needs to have fallen in your heart. But let me make one thing very clear. Giving up the ways of the world is not a sacrifice. Giving up immorality and vanity and selfishness is not a sacrifice. Though it needs to happen, it's not a duty. It's an incredible privilege. It's the greatest miracle you could ever ask for of God. So to so change your heart that even though you still live in a sinful world, there's still evil influences around you right now. You even face temptations, but that already in your heart, you're living as if you're in heaven. You start disliking the superficial and immoral entertainments in the world, and you like more the things that help you to become a better person. You care less about all the stuff you own, the things you want, but you care more for what you can mean for those around you. Rather than living every day like you only live once, you live every day with eternity in mind. You have a different perspective, different priorities. You live different. You have left behind the worldly mindset, the way that the world says you should behave and think, and all the worries and cares of the world. Even though the statue is globally still standing in the prophetic sense, it has already fallen in your heart. The kingdom of God and a restored heart are not promises for the future, they are promises for today. While still living in the world, you are living as a citizen of heaven, living by the heavenly principles. Then, for you, the second coming will be something to look forward to. Because then, your environment will finally be changed to match with what's in your heart. So you can live the life that you were made for and have been deeply longing for, without any stain of sin or evil or temptation around you. My dear friend, has the statue fallen in your heart? Or do you still hold on to the temporal, empty things of this world? Let it go. It's not worth it. Go all in for God and break down the statue completely. Now the next step is to start living out the principles of heaven while still living on earth. And that's exactly why we made our app, Kindly, to help you with that. It's like a social network, a community with forums and groups and challenges to help you to live different. And in this next video, we will tell you more about this app and how it can help you to live the life that you want to live. See you on Kindly. Maranatha.